All right, in this sixth session, which is the last session of week 9, we will talk about Joseonjok's contribution to the culinary diversity and culture, not only to Chinese, but also South Korean, well, almost global. China was one of the first countries in the world where Korean food gained nationwide popularity. I had mentioned about it when I was talking about Korean American food, that the first group of people who came to Korean restaurant in America, they were the Chinese people from Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Southeast Asia. They were the first group of people who started globalization of K-food. The same thing, China as a country, it was the country where Korean food was widely popular. And behind this, the popularity was also Joseonjok entrepreneurs' contribution. And how? Because, first of all, Joseonjok people, like Uyghur people, they were very much confined to their own ethnic communities in northeastern China. But after 1980s, like Uyghur people or any other ethnic groups, they started to move around in China. And so they will go from the 3 provinces of Jilin, Liaoning, and Heilongjiang. They would go other parts of China, bringing what they can offer, like a naengmyeon, the traditional Joseonjok food, and the South Korean food they learned in South Korea, and including this new lamb kebab that they learned from Uyghur people. So in that regard, they spread out these new ideas, new culture throughout China. So, in a sense, it was the Joseonjok people who initiated this K-food within China. And particularly because Joseonjok people became really mobile, and they would send their children to schools in Beijing, big cities such as Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenyang, and so on. And then family moved there to help their children, and also the Joseonjok were the first people who traded with Russians in late 1980s and 90s, because Russia and China has a very long border, and at that time, in the 1980s, Russia communist economic system didn't work, and Russians had a huge demand for consumption goods, especially garment. And China at that time was already the world's factory, the garment factory of the entire world. So Russians wanted to buy garment. And these Joseonjok people, they would carry big bags full of garment, especially sports uniforms and so on, and they would go to Russia by train, and then they would sell the garment from Vladivostok one side to all the way to Moscow. And they gained quite a bit of experience in managing the business management through this experience. And not to mention, so many Joseonjok people, they went to South Korea, and while working in construction and restaurant and so on, which is really 3D job, they also learned a new management skills, customer care, and so on. So with all these new skills they learned from their life, from their environment, now they would spread out South Korean food as well throughout China. And that's how South Korean food such as bibimbap and kimchi jjigae, which Chinese really love. It's not just Chinese. Vietnam and Cambodia, Laos, Southeast Asians tend to love particularly kimchi jjigae. And so Joseonjok people were the first people who spread out this food throughout China. And their impact and contribution to South Korean culinary culture is also huge in many regards. South Koreans do not really tend to understand this part, and Joseonjok people are very much discriminated in South Korean society, but South Koreans should understand how much Joseonjok people have contributed bringing cultural diversity to South Korea, particularly culinary cultural diversity. And now, first of all, South Korean food industry was not possible if there was no Joseonjok men and women working at restaurant. Because of thanks to this abundant, large number of Joseonjok men and women come to South Korea to work, the South Koreans could enjoy Korean food in a lower price because Koreans don't want to work at restaurant or in construction as much as Joseonjok did. So that already, as a labor force, their contribution is huge. But also, restaurants in Korea have been employing so many Joseonjok people because of their language capacity. And when South Korean restaurant owners, when they want to hire people among foreign workers, normally Joseonjok people are the best people and the only people they could employ because they know Korean. They could not employ, say, Bangladesh or Nepalese and so on to restaurant easily because of their language capacity. But Joseonjok, with their being fluency in Korean language, they could work in restaurant business. And also Joseonjok people now understanding what kind of food can sell well in South Korea market, they would bring them from China, like a maratang and all these things today, which are very popular among South Koreans, and that was helped by Joseonjok people and Hogwa as well. Okay? And not to mention the Yeonbyeon, Naengmyeon, Sundae, Yeongchae kimchi, and so on and so on. So they really have been contributing to the diversity, culinary diversity of South Korea so much. And most of all, Joseonjok people have made the Koreans eat lamb. As I said, Koreans, including Joseonjok, lamb meat was never a part of their diet. However, by introducing and engaging in this Xinjiang-style barbecue lamb skewer to South Korea and to Yeonbyeon, in Yeonbyeon and elsewhere, they made this meat consumable by South Koreans. Now that is a dietary revolution in a sense. Now this has many benefits. Not only it diversified South Korean diet, but also probably it will reduce the amount of dog meat consumed in China and possibly in South Korea as well. Because the lamb meat can be alternative for dog meat, which is a cultural taboo in today, even in South Korea. But anyway, today there are thousands of Joseonjok-owned barbecue lamb skewer restaurants in China and in South Korea and also in Japan, because in Japan the number of Joseonjok people have been increasing, and big cities such as Tokyo and Osaka and Fukuoka, you see Joseonjok running Joseonjok restaurants, they sell the Xinjiang style barbecue meat, and in London and in Los Angeles as well. So this is a huge change that they have contributed to Korean dietary life. And as I said, they invented this new machine which can be applied to maybe to many other food industry. And through this restaurant, they would serve yeonmyeon, naengmyeon, and yeonmyeon, naengmyeon sales in South Korea has been increasing as well. And also, this also helped my own country, New Zealand. New Zealand lamb meat exportation to South Korea has been growing. And now, how do you explain it? That's thanks to the growing demand and consumption of lamb meat in South Korea. And finally, they also globalizing K-food as well as K-pop, because this is a restaurant that I frequently visited in Qingdao. Now this restaurant is a very big, very clean. Even in South Korea, I seldom see such a amazingly a beautiful restaurant, including its interior design and everything. And the same restaurant on the right side, you have this huge monitor, and there are K-pop singers come out. And so Chinese customers who come here enjoying this food, they listening to Korea K-pop and watching K-drama and so on. So I argue that Joseonjok's contribution to South Korean culinary life, but also in general South Korean, the diversification of South Korean culture is enormous. And I hope that South Koreans would show more respect to Joseonjok people. And now, Joseonjok people in China have been representing the traditional Hamgyong province food, in summary, and culinary culture, while adopting the new cultures as they meet Han Chinese and later South Koreans and so on and so on. And since the 1980s, they have been active in migrating to larger cities in China and South Korea. And in this process, they have been learning new things, and they have been globalizing Korean food in China and elsewhere. And finally, I covered how they contributed by upgrading this Uyghur people's barbecue lamb skewer and spread it out throughout South Korea and throughout China. And now they are spreading out to other parts of the world. Now that is an amazing contribution. And thank you very much. And I will conclude my 9th week lecture here. All right, that concludes session 6 of week 9, the Joseonjok culinary impacts on South Korea. So Jongwon, do you have any interesting topic we can discuss or questions?
Definitely, I want to talk about the barbecued lamb skewers because that is the most famous food, one of the most famous foods in Korea right now.
Oh, really?
Yes, because I do have a lot of friends who love barbecued lamb skewers. The food originated by Joseonjok.
That's right.
And I feel actually the popularity of lamb skewers is increasing day by day.
That's right.
And
oh,
yes,
wow.
so the interesting point here is that since a lot of lamb skewers restaurants are located in or like around Chinatown, it seems that more people tend to visit Chinatown more often compared to the past. I personally believe that the popularization of barbecued lamb skewers has not only contributed to diversifying K-food industry, but also to revitalizing business and tourism in South Korea's Chinatown.
That's right.
Yeah, so in this sense, promoting the barbecued lamb skewers industry would be beneficial for both Koreans and Joseonjok, I guess.
That's right.
Then could you tell me more about your personal opinion or perspective on this potential win-win effect of the barbecued lamb skewers industry in South Korea?
Yes, that's a really good question, Jungwon. As a matter of fact, the migrants tend to revitalize the abandoned ghettos. Now, we have a lot of experience. For example, Flushing in New York was a very, very bad place, like a Koreatown in Los Angeles initially. But then as Korean migrants came there, because everything was cheap,
Yeah.
the housing and everything was cheap, and within several years, now they changed this ghetto into quite a livable space. And then Chinese came and other people came, and then it became more prosperous. Exactly the same, especially Daerim-dong in Yeongdeungpo district in Seoul, that used to be an industrial complex established in 1970s, 60s and 70s. And then as the South Korean economy grew, and now they totally declined. And when Joseonjok people came, because this was a former industrial area, there was a lot of small rooms available in a very cheap price. And that's why Joseonjok came and gathered in that town. And then they gradually changed it because Joseonjok people, they all work and they have a small income and they create community. And of course, regardless of the South Korean, majority of South Korean tend to think that Joseonjok towns are dangerous and so on, but that's a totally misrepresentation, especially by some filmmakers. You know, that they put gangsters and everything.
Yeah.
No, it is not that kind of place. Of course, we should admit that there was some weird incident, like
Yeah,
murders and things. But other than that, it's a very safe place. And now Joseonjok people, with their new culture, and they are revitalizing the formerly abandoned, declining industrial neighborhood. And now, with things like their food, and particularly barbecued lamb skewer, and South Koreans come there to enjoy the food, and even South Korean tourism organization, they are advertising to visiting foreign tourists. So it is great potential and it will only prosper. And as Joseonjok people's income increase, that area can turn into go through new gentrification.
Yeah.
So it is really good for everyone.
Yeah, it is. So that might be the reason why that I try to express the lamb skewers industry can be as a win-win effect for both Joseonjok and South Koreans.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's also interesting that the tourism organization tries to advertise South Korea's tourism attractions with the use of Chinatown. So
That's right.
yeah, so yeah.
Exactly, because a food like barbecued lamb skewer, it cannot be carried out by South Koreans because they don't have that idea. They didn't have that experience. But it's only Joseonjok can do it, and they can do the best.
Yeah.
So we have all the good reasons to support these people to continue and improve their business. And that will be good for everyone.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Okay, well, then probably we will end our session 6 of week 9, and we will see you again in our next episode. Thank you.